With any upset condition of the aircraft, there are likely to be exceptional loads and demands put on the engines, so we may well encounter some engine difficulties. This brief will talk about some of the scenarios which may occur as a result of an upset and offer some points for discussion about how to deal with them. The key message of this brief, however, is that engine problems are very alluring to deal with immediately. They come with many audio warnings, light warnings, and may be accompanied by vibration or loud bangs coming from the engines. The most important thing is that you deal with the upset first and fly the aeroplane safely. Once the aircraft is under control, deal with the engines in a methodical, thoughtful way. So in this brief, we will cover surges, internal engine damage, core lock, rollback, and multi-engine flameout. Taking surge first then. A surge, or a compressor stall, is a reversal of airflow through the engine as a result of disrupted intake airflow. Symptoms may include an audible bang or a muffled thud, and the latter is more common at high altitude. The bangs are often associated with high power settings or low altitude. You may get light vibration, a rapid rise in EGT. Surges tend to be in one of three categories. The first of these is a minor surge, where no crew action is required to resolve the surge and the engine will quickly return to normal. The second may see EGT rise to the red sector and remain constant, in which case the crew will be required to reduce thrust to clear the surge and confirm that the EGT reduces. If the surge appears to be resolved, then slowly and cautiously advance the thrust and monitoring for signs that the engine may still be surged. And if the engine surges again, the crew may be required to maintain a low or idle power setting and bring the aircraft back with limited thrust. The third type of surge is where the engine fails to recover and EGT remains out of limits even with idle thrust, in which case your aircraft may have drills which include an engine shutdown, perhaps an attempted relight. In any case, the guidance has to be to follow your own aircraft checklist and look for your type-specific details. But as a general note, it's often the case that an engine at idle will still produce less drag and offer some power to aircraft systems, so shutting the engine down is often considered to be a last resort. And even with engines in surge and throttles at idle, an aircraft upset can still be recovered. Due to the high loads experienced in upset recovery, and particularly where there is any degree of side slip, there's a possibility that internal damage may occur in the engine. Be prepared for the fact that you'll probably get some adverse engine indications during upset recovery, and fly the aeroplane first. You must fly the aeroplane first and recover from the upset, establishing a safe flight path before dealing with any adverse engine indications. And of course, there will be a startle factor associated, and particularly with surges or compressor stalls, where they may be accompanied by a loud bang and extreme engine indications, it can be very tempting to get your head inside the cockpit and start trying to deal with the engine emergencies. You must resist and concentrate on flying the aeroplanes to safety. Once you're in a safe flight regime, continue to fly the aeroplane first and ensure that there are no secondary upsets and that the cause of the first upset is discussed. Then methodically follow your checklist for adverse engine indications which remain, and be prepared for the fact that even if you don't have any instant adverse engine indications, you may still have some engine damage, so treat the engines with care. Moving on, let's consider core lock. There's potential for this to occur after an abnormal thermal event in the engine. For instance, the engine may have flamed out at a low airspeed following an upset. A core lock is where the internal friction in the engine overcomes the external aerodynamic driving force, which keeps the engine windmilling. This causes the core of the engine to stop rotating, and as the engine is rapidly cooled, the differential cooling of the materials inside the engine causes the outer casing to cool faster than hotter internal components. And as the casing cools, it shrinks and clamps down on the core, locking it and preventing rotation. There is a potential for this to be severe enough to exceed the turning force available by increasing speed or from the engine's own starter. The only way to overcome core lock is to have enough time to allow cooling to occur and for the temperature inside the engine to equalise. So, after an upset, monitor the engine instruments, and if you see that the engine spool speed is 0, there could either be a case of mechanical failure due to damage incurred by the upset or core lock. In either case, you're looking to achieve your best lift over drag speed. Don't be tempted to immediately go into trying to achieve your best windmill speed, and start to work through your forced landing options. At this point, you're trying to maximise your time airborne to allow cooling throughout the engine, and if you see that rotation begins in the engine, then you can contemplate diving for a windmill speed and relight. Rollback is an uncommon anomaly consisting of an uncommanded loss of thrust with a decrease in N1 or EPR, which may be accompanied by an increase in EGT. It can be caused by a high angle of attack, disrupted airflow, a mechanical failure, fuel control issues, icing, or moisture. The two causes marked in blue here are of particular significance to us in considering upset recovery. Due to the forces involved in an upset recovery, there is an increased chance of mechanical failure, and it may be that we've flown at a high angle of attack and possibly disrupted the engine intake airflow. A rollback will usually result in either a core lock or an engine flameout. Moving on to multi-engine flameouts. These can occur as a result of high altitude, low airspeed events, and potentially also as a result of upset due to surge or engine damage. Of course, the priority has to remain to fly the aeroplane first. Accomplish the checklist memory items and subsequent actions, and be aware of requirements for your aircraft in a flameout situation, such as areas of the flight envelope where windmill starts are more likely. If the multi-engine flameout occurred at a high altitude, sometimes your aircraft manual may require you to perform a drift down to a lower altitude to improve the windmill start capability. But the key message here has to be that your first priority is to fly the aeroplane safely. With the aircraft in a safe flight regime, strict adherence to the checklist is essential to maximise your chances of successful relight. So, in this section about engine considerations, we've looked at surge risk, internal engine damage, core lock, rollback, and risk of multi-engine flameout. The key message remains that you must fly the aeroplane first, deal with the upset as your top priority. Once you have the aircraft in a safe flight regime with the chances of a secondary upset minimised, then you can start to methodically and thoughtfully work through any adverse engine indications that you have. It's also important for you to be prepared for the fact that in an aircraft upset situation, you may well start to get distracting warnings which demand you to look at the engine instruments. Think about how you're going to deal with this and make sure that you've coached yourself mentally that in those situations you will deal with the upset first and establish a safe flight regime.